If you've ever wanted to participate in a no reserve tax, so where properties are sold even below the taxes that were previously owed on them, today is your lucky day. We'll be looking at Michigan's no reserve auction, where most of the properties have opening bids starting at just $100. It's a great opportunity to snag some amazing deals. Now, the auction closes in a couple of days, so you're going to need to act fast on these if you're interested in bidding on these specific properties. But I'm going to go through every single property on that list to give you my opinion as somebody who's been looking at tax defaulted real estate for my entire adult life. And even if you have no plans to bid whatsoever, that's perfectly fine, because you will still learn how to spot properties that will stand out and how to spot some red flags. Let's go ahead, switching over to my screen, and we will get started. So the website we're looking at right now is called tax-sale.info, and it's run by a company called Title Check out of Michigan. Title Check handles the majority of the tax sales in the state of Michigan. So I've shown this website before, but what Michigan does, they have two different sales. The first sale is going to be for an opening bid that starts to the amount back to taxes, interest, and fees. And I'll show you those results really quick here. You can go through, you can click on all these, and you'll notice that all these sold, for at least $1,000 or a few $1,000, $240,000, for example. So all these start at the amount of back due taxes, interest, and fees. Now, when a property goes to that auction but does not sell, they will reoffer it at their no reserve auction, which generally starts around $100. I think the exact number is determined by the county treasurer, but nonetheless, it's very, very cheap. So we're going to click on no reserve auction, and we're going to go through all of these properties today. It's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm certain you will learn something as we go through this process. Now, as this page loads, because there's a lot of properties to load, Michigan does their sales online now. They used to do a lot of them in person. Just about every single one of them they did in person, but they would almost do a hybrid system too, where you could bid in person or you could bid online. And eventually they transitioned to just an online auction. And the entire list of no reserve properties are being sold. And it looks like it closes October 31st at 7 p.m. Now, we're going to go through a lot of properties, and there's going to be some that I'm going to say, yes, it's a fantastic deal. You can make money on. That doesn't mean you should go out and bid on it. That means you need to invest the required time to perform that additional due diligence and to make sure you drive by the property, call the county, do what you need to do. But I'm going to do a very, very quick run through of these properties. We're really not going to dig into them all that deep. I'm just going to show you what kind of sticks out to me. All right, let's go through it. And we will work through these properties. So right off the bat, this property here, 2,400 square feet, too small. It's a landlocked piece of property. We have Lakes of the North. So what I do with properties like this is, obviously, they've got a number of different properties in Lakes of the North. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 8. There's at least 20 to 30 properties in Lakes of the North. So what I'll do with this is I will click on one of them and I'll open it up. And I've talked about this before, but Title Check does a great job of providing some photos. They provide descriptions. They provide all this information for you, right? And of course, the reason they do that is because the more information they provide, the higher people's bids go and they earn a buyer's premium. So they have a reason that they have provided all this material to market the property. Now, a lot of this is going to be very accurate, but you still have to take it with a grain of salt. Never, ever purchase anything based on the information provided by, one source like this auctioneer, right? We have to verify their information. But nonetheless, we're going to use a lot of their information just for the kind of the purposes of this video to give you an idea of what to look for. So, you scroll down here, it tells you, right, there's obviously an assessment. That's the first thing that I see, an annual assessment. We need to figure out how much that assessment is. We also need to figure out how much these properties are. More information, click here, boom. Or we could also Google it, right? We'll see if that loads for us. We'll Google Lakes of the North POA dues. Very simple. Up, boom, right here. $380 for a primary lot and $214 for each secondary lot. So from here, we can do Lakes of the North, lots for sale, right? Again, very simple. Looks like they have some properties that are being sold directly by the association. List of lots for sale. Click on this and see what we got here. So this is loading for us and looks like, okay, so lots are priced at $2,000 each. And then they include that annual assessment of $380. So you have a low value piece of real estate with fairly high taxes. You're talking I'm sorry, fairly high assessments, you're talking, what's that, 20% a year in assessments of the land value. So that's pretty steep. So we can see why these properties are available at the tax sale. Now, obviously, they do have dining, golf, clubhouse, winter sports. It looks like they got a little airport here, a lighted paved runway. Even that's interesting. So, they do have some amenities for sure, but understand, like, there's a reason that these lots are at the tax sale, and they're because the dues are high, and you have in Lakes of the North happen to know this. They have thousands and thousands of lots that were undeveloped. I mean, the association still owns lots, and they're trying to sell for $2,000. So, can you make money on these? Buying them for $100, maybe selling them for $1,500 or so? Yes, you can, but you need to have a very specific strategy. A buyer's list, know to market, know to sell these properties. This is something I actually discussed not too long ago in Tax Sale HQ. Did a whole video on making money with the lots that have high POA and HOA dues. You can make money, but you have to know what you're doing. All right, but as you can see, when we did this, we researched 25 properties at one time, right? If you're going to bid on these, you want to go into each individual property. But for the purposes of this video, we essentially researched all these bulk of properties very, very quickly. All right, now we have some boat slips. Boat slips can be very valuable in certain areas of the country. Great Lakes is one area, but Miami-Dade is another area. On the ocean, the big lakes, the Great Lakes. But understand that when you buy a boat slip, you see this word condo right here. That means you have dues that come with it, and it looks like the dues that you're paying, they aren't doing a whole much because you see over here there's really no slip. It's just a little area of water. Can you make money with that? Yes, possibly if you know what you're doing, if you have a specialized strategy. I don't know enough about the boat slips, especially in that area, to consider it. If you're going to buy any, you probably want to buy this one that has actual planking down, but it's not something that I would mess with personally. All right, so we got a few different lots here. We've got a 0.69 acre lot in Barry. Take a look at this real quick and see what we got. I'm going to close out of this information just so we don't get confused up here. Lot 9 and 10 in Barrett Acres, 0.69. So it looks like there's a structure previous on the property. So when you see this, a structure previously on the property, but it's since been removed, you want to make sure that the demolition cost for that property, for the house on that property or whatever was there, is not attached to it. Because that would be, if the government actually went in, demolished that property themselves, you would be the one responsible for those fees. So that's something you want to research. It doesn't look like that's a situation for this property. A lot of times that'll be in the more urban built up areas. Looks like maybe there's a house there many, many years ago, and you can kind of see the outline here on the GIS. And what else they say? Looks like somebody's dumping their leaves. No big deal with that. Nice spot to build. Neighborhood well maintained. As always, if you're planning to develop, yes, contact the local government to make sure there's no restrictions or anything else on the property. Now, you'll see the SEV, the state equalized value in Michigan. I believe it's 50% of the market value, supposedly. We never should go off this number. And this is a prime example because, they even actually had a disclaimer down here. They think this SEV was back when they had a structure of some sort on the property. So it's a prime example. Somebody might think, hey, the property is going to be valued at $40,000. Well, it was $40,000 when the old dilapidated house was there before it got removed or burned down or whatever, right? So we don't use the SEV or any tax assessments. We have to get our own value. But nonetheless, at $100, a vacant lot, you can definitely make money there. I don't see anything that stands out. Obviously, do your research, but that's a moneymaker in my book. You got these 0.71 acres sites in Pinconning. I think that's how you pronounce it. I believe I've seen these before because we talked about these in a previous video. Riverside Meadows. Looking at the building requirements, looking at these pictures though in the maps. Let's see if we can pull that GIS up. Let's see. Okay, so you got a newer house here. Obviously the roads are in. You got a newer house here, a newer house here, and I get that from looking at the roof lines and stuff. Looks like nice properties. Obviously, these lots are a little bit smaller than these over here, but the properties that are being sold, if you were to click on each one of these, they're actually these lots through here. So you've got a number of different lots side by side. The developer or the builder or somebody probably lost these lots. There's no telling what happened. But can you make money in these? Yes, you can. There's probably going to be dues of some sort. It doesn't look like they have big dues or anything like that. I don't know if it's gated or whatnot. That's something you have to look into. But those are money making lots in my book. Obviously, do your research, but at $100, pretty good. Now you have to look. It gets darker back here. Let me click on this one again. Look at this, something that just stood out. This gets darker and a little bit wooded back. You need to make sure that that's not wet back there. And if it is, make sure you have enough buildable area based on setbacks and that kind of stuff. So keep that in mind. Now let's go back and keep looking at a few more properties. All right, so we scroll down. You got a house right here, old boarded house. We're going to look at a number of houses today. And when you see something like this, is it economically feasible to go in there and rebuild this house? A lot of times it's not. And the reason I say that is some of these areas are I guess, economically depressed areas. And this property, you have to do the value and stuff, but the property might be worth, and I'm just shooting from the hip, say $50,000, and it needs $70,000 worth of work by the time you get foundation and electric and HVAC, replace everything. Like you have to weigh the pros and the cons. And a lot of these houses are not going to be worth it. That's the reason they're here. Nonetheless, we will go through a few of them. But $100 for this house. Can you make it work? Maybe if you're local to the area. Don't know the value. You have to dig into the values a little bit further. This lot right here looks decent. That's too small to build on, too small to build on, too small to build on. You have this house that has graffiti on it. That's not a good look. You have this house that looks like it has serious damage to it, serious damage here. This one, they both say condemned. This one has fire damage on it. It's probably condemned as well, even though it doesn't say it. When it's condemned, that means you have to talk to the county or the city, see exactly what they want you to do with that property, and understand you have to do that if you want to, to be able to move somebody in that property, either a renter or sell the property yourself. Can you buy it and flip it to somebody local? Yes, you can, but understand that you're the one responsible for the property the moment you buy it. And that's a big ask for these properties. You got some lots down here. These look like urban area lots. Let's pull up a few of them. Let's see what we got. We'll see if we can kind of do a little group analysis. $300 SEV. Again, we don't use the SEV to establish our max bids or anything like that. But when you see a very low equalized value, the state is saying this property is, or the county is saying this property is worth $600. That's kind of a red flag. That probably means it's not buildable. It looks like it is a side yard of somebody. That's probably a property you want to skip. Same thing with these here. You have a 0.12, 0.13. I'm going to guess these are also have a pretty low $400 assessed value. Now, sometimes you can build on these properties, especially in like urban areas. You don't have to have a huge lot because you can see this houses. Let me zoom in for a little bit just in case you can't see this. But you can see this houses back here have pretty much the same size lot. Can you build on this lot? Yeah, I would say you probably could. Obviously, you want to check with the county. But more importantly than that, will anybody ever build on this lot? Odds are probably not in my lifetime. Just based on what I know about the area and that kind of thing. So keep that in mind. That's why there's a lot of lots around here that have had houses probably knocked down. So keep that in mind. You can probably buy it for $100. You might be able to sell it to a speculator online. A lot of speculators online will buy properties if they are cheap enough and if the holding costs are low enough. This one it is $33 a year for taxes. So you can probably buy this and sell it for $1,500 if you get, if you kind of market it correctly. Two-story house, that looks interesting. Let's see what we got here. All right, we got a two-story house. Okay, so ceilings collapse, very poor condition, just based on that description of somebody who has been there. Wow, this property is rough. It's probably gonna be a knockdown. It's probably that's something I would skip. 0.04 acres, that's too small. This is probably this little guy. This little house is a side yard. You have one-story house here. You probably make some money with this one. Let me see. It looks like there's some, most of these properties have rot, wood damage, roof damage. Wow, there's a lot of trash on this one you're responsible for. There's a lot of stuff here. That's a big project. That's you just got to clean it up. Otherwise, what happens is a lot of times what happens is the moment you buy this property, the code enforcement officer for that area knows that the property has been sold at a tax sale. So instead of targeting this person who he's been after for years and years and years, they have somebody new to target. So the moment you buy this, you'd better start cleaning up, get your plan in place, because that code enforcement officer is going to come after you, and he's probably going to start finding you and stuff if you don't take care of that property. So keep that in mind. It's a little more risky than just saying you're going to buy an old house and try to sell it. All right. You got a commercial property here. That's kind of there's a lot to that as well. If you're familiar with that area, maybe you're a builder, maybe you got partners, you might be able to tackle that. If not, it's a big ask. All right. You got a piece of property right here. Looks like it's landlocked. It's pretty much worthless. Yeah, that says 1-story house, but there's nothing on the photo. It's probably knocked down. 0.20 acres here. You got a commercial structure here. This might be good, and then we'll load this one in the background, kind of see if we can get through these a little bit quicker here. Looking at these photos, this property is noticeably smaller than everything around it. So you want to make it looks like there's a junkyard back here too. So you want to make sure that number one, there's no junk on your property, and number two, is it actually buildable? This one says the house has suffered from major fire and is dangerous house will be demolished. So you're bidding on a vacant lot. So again, ensure you don't get those demolition costs. But perhaps you can make money on this one. Maybe sell it to a speculator, perhaps. All right, this one over here is a building. Wow. No shortage of roof damage with this sucker. So I do see water in the background. That's good. All right, so you're on water. Okay, maybe a river or pond. Okay, 0.04 acres, that's tiny, which means either the building, you'd have to look at the GIS on this property and do some other research, because 0.04 acres is very, very small. And whatever structures on the property would cover every single inch of that more than likely. Super cool building is prime, but a major foundations failing. Used to be an old bait shop, concrete fish. Okay, cool. Directly on the river. Needs to be torn down in a large restoration project. Substantial amount of work. Be aware the driveway that is directly to the south is located on the edge. Okay, privacy. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to it. This is probably a little tiny parcel right here. If you are local to the area and you wanted to tackle this, you probably could. There's a lot to that, though. You're on riverfront. You have to make sure you can actually rebuild there, because the laws do change over time. Might be grandfathered in if you try to use that footprint for that building. But there's a lot going on with that property. Churches, these are specialty properties. I actually see a lot of churches come up for sale at tax sales. They can be difficult to make money on. That's probably too small. 2-story duplex. It's got a code enforcement issue right there. Probably beyond repair, feasibly at least. 0.11 acres. Maybe you can build on this. You check the county. Same thing with this one, 26.18. You might be able to build on that if you can. I don't suspect there's a whole lot of building going on in the city limits right now, but you could probably, if you can buy it at $100, I'm sure the taxes are nominal. You can probably sell it to a speculator online, $1,500, $2,000, somewhere in that ballpark. This mobile home looks like it's in pretty poor condition. Let's just click just to make sure we're not missing an opportunity. And obviously, if I personally was going to invest in these, and I've actually got a few bids on some of those properties, I'm not going to say which ones, but if I was going to invest in some of these, you want to do the information we're doing right now and dig deeper, right? We see this property here, this mobile home. We want to drive by this property or send somebody there. This property's in pretty poor condition. Yeah. 0.24 acres, most of when has been broken, so that means there's water damage. You probably got to haul that thing off. So you got to pay somebody to haul it off. Yeah, it's probably beyond repair. All right, moving on. 0.10, 0.11. That looks like a little side yard, depending on setbacks and stuff. That's probably not buildable. Some of these maybe are buildable. You have to check with, looks like it's in Battle Creek. 0.10, you have a little curb cut and apron on this one. You have some stairs going up this one, which means there's probably a structure there at one time. So it's probably, at least it was buildable at one time. Can you build on it now? Maybe it was grandfathered in, maybe it wasn't, or maybe the laws haven't changed. I don't know. You got to contact the city or the county. There's a little wood house, old. It looks like it's got bad foundation. That's always fun to deal with. You'll notice that a lot of these houses, especially at this leftover sale, have foundation issues, fire issues, water issues. They have all the issues. These properties are in rough shape. Um, yeah, we've sold this one before and it's back, which means that somebody bought it at the previous tax sale and thought they could do something with it, and they could not. They didn't make any money with it, so they did not pay the taxes. It went back to the tax sale, and here it is again. We call those frequent flyers, and frequent flyers are here for a reason. Let's look at this one, vacant parcel with access issues. So outlot A, anytime I see this, when it says outlot, it would say like, block 1, lot 1, or lot number 23 or something. But when you see outlot, that is generally a sign where there could be something bad. Not always, but it could be something bad. Outlot A. All right, so we look at this plat map here. Outlot A looks this little triangle piece right here. Let's go back here. So this is the triangle piece. Outlot A is right here. More than likely, this was supposed to be a water retention area that the developer never put in, or maybe it's just green space or something. But number one, you can't access it. Number two, even if you could access that property, the developer's agreement for this subdivision is probably on file that says you cannot build on that property and it has to remain green space. So if you wanted to bid on it, suppose you could get access, you would want to look at the developer's agreement and see if you can do anything with that property. My thoughts are you probably can't. That's why it's here at a tax sale. Next one. 4,000 square feet. That's pretty small, probably too small to build on. Narrow lot here. Same thing. Looking at this property, something you got to do too is you kind of got to look at the properties all around it, right? This is the most narrow property we see on here. More than likely, it was an alley. It was for an easement. It was for power lines. It was a ditch, something like that. There's a reason this is narrow and at a tax sale. Don't bid on that one. All right, let's scroll down a little bit. You got some, it's got access issues. Trying to figure out what's going on with this one. Let's see. This property here might have access issues as well. Okay, so it looks like it's on a road. Don't know how big of a road that is. A lot of times you'll see these properties on roads like, okay, Spruce Street doesn't look like it's too busy. Okay, 39 feet. There's our issue. 39 by 150. By the time you get setbacks and everything else, if you have a 20-foot setback on both sides, well, that's not even possible on this lot. You have a 10-foot setback on both sides. You're talking like a 19-foot wide house or structure. It's probably just not feasibly buildable. That's why it's here to tax sale. You got these properties here. They don't have access to them. We're not even going to click on those. You have a property here that's tucked behind this other property. Looks like a surveyor was cut off. It was cut off, or maybe it was there's a strip there. Maybe it was a utility easement or something. This property here, this is an interesting one because it does have legal access. It looks like it fronts on a road that was plotted, as you see these lines right here, but that road was never cut. So you have legal access, but you don't have physical access. There's no road to that property, so that's an issue. Obviously, you don't want to buy that one unless you're the adjoining landowner or something like that, right? 6,000 square foot, that's probably going to be too small to build on. You have another one here. Let's see, this one is 6,000 square feet. 60 by 100, maybe you can build on it. Looks like they sold this one a few years ago as well. Maybe you can build on it. That's something you want to, contact. It kind of looks like there's parcels nearby that I think are the same size. Of course, he looks like he's on different property line. There's no telling. Contact the county, see if that's buildable based on the square footage and the setbacks. You have to realize that you are on a corner lot, and sometimes corner lots have different setbacks. So keep that in mind as well. Now we got this property here. Again, it fronts a legal road, but it does not have a physical road. All right, let's skip down. We got Sugar Springs, same deal. This is one of those subdivisions that has a lot of properties in the subdivision, like thousands of lots, I believe. Low values and high dues. So let's see if we can find out these dues real quick. The values of the properties there are like $2,000, $2,500, somewhere in there. POA dues. All right, so $475 plus your lake treatment fee. That's another fun little add-on. So you're looking at what's that? $535 for fees, and the properties are worth like $2,000, $2,500. Again, you could probably buy these. Now you also have to do your research. Don't just go haphazardly buying them. Make sure they're not wet. Make sure they have roads in front, all that good stuff. But you could probably buy these and flip them to a speculator, perhaps for 1,500, 1,600 bucks, somewhere around there. You can make a little bit of money on these. And I've done that many, many times. Just you have to know what you're doing. You have to kind of have the right approach, be able to find the speculators and that kind of stuff. All right. A collapsing building, that's I guess going to be a big project for somebody. This looks like it's a little bit off the road, no road frontage. You got a failing commercial building in Sumner, dilapidated house here. 2-story house. A lot of these houses and stuff, a lot of them are just beyond reasonable repair. You're gonna have way too much money, and you have a lot more money repairing these properties in them than the properties end up being worth. So that's kind of the trouble with a lot of these properties. Now, I don't know that about all the areas that we're looking at, but a lot of them I do know that about. 1.3 acres. So here, this people see that this is an issue. Okay, this first of all, you look at let's go back here. Legal description. This says detention area. I think it's supposed to be a retention area because they made a mistake. It also says common area, right? You don't want to buy a retention area. You don't want to buy a common area because you can't do anything with those. Now they're saying it looks like it's intended for a retention pond, but it looks dry. Newly built homes, quiet and peaceful, etc. The deal is that when the developer got, and that is low. I mean, I could definitely see. I mean, looks like it was sloped and shaped properly. The deal is when the developer got the agreement by the city or the county to put this subdivision in, and it does look like a newer subdivision, he intentionally assigned this piece as their water retention area, and probably this piece right here as well as part of their developer's agreement. And you can't just add a bunch of fill dirt and build on that property. More than likely, that property is unbuildable, and it's also labeled as common area, which means it's commonly used or being able to be used by the residents there. Not sure why it's at a tax sale. Maybe it's one of those deals where it never got transferred over to the association, or maybe the association was never set up, or maybe there's no telling. Nonetheless, that's a retention area. You shouldn't buy it. All right, let's move on here. Let's see. Little side yard here, a little yard here. Again, if there is a building big enough to be built on, which I don't know, maybe you could sell it to a speculator online. An old propane station, gas station, those are scary because a lot of them have contaminated soils. Half of a duplex, that's a fun legal nightmare. A lot of trash on this property. Don't want to buy that one because, when you buy that property, you will have to do something with that trash. All right, we got Lakewood Shores POA. Again, check the dues on this one. You got a boat slip here. Don't know if there's any value there. I'm not familiar with boat slips in that area. This property here does not have physical access. Got a couple of houses in looks like Caspian. We've got looks like posted notices on these. Make sure you take care of those issues. You got a property looks like it was fire damaged here. Vacant lot here. That might be too small to build on. The fire damaged property it's going to be a lot to handle. This is an old mobile home park in Brooklyn. 2 old office buildings and the remnants of an old Michigan trailer park. Looks like it's from the Jerry Springer show. Okay, anyhow, interesting. 11 acres. That's interesting. I did a video on a mobile home park in Genesee County not too long ago. I posted it on this channel here, and basically I was saying how valuable the mobile home park zoning can be. So if you're able to buy this property and the mobile home park zoning is there, you go in there and you remove the buildings, you remove the mobile homes, you put some tiny homes in there, you put some new homes in there, campsites. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do depending on the county and stuff. But obviously, everything here, every improvement is beyond reasonable repair. So keep that in mind. Yeah, these properties are rough. So you knocked on everything, but if you do have that zoning, you have the ability to put a mobile home park in there. There's a lot of value in that, and it's certainly worth $100 in the demolition cost. But for most newer investors, that's probably going to be too big a project. But there's money there. Certainly, if the zoning is there, obviously you have to talk to the county and the city and make sure it's still there, and make sure they're not going to pull it. The property that we went over in Genesee County, they actually removed the zoning, so it went from mobile home park to single family residential zoning. So there's a massive difference in value there. All right, 0.05 acres. Looks, if you can build on this, you could sell it online. Same thing here. 0.05 and 0.06. Those are pretty small lots. That looks like a side lot or somebody's driveway. This stuff more than likely is going to be too small to be built on. You have this one that's 0.4 acres, an unbuilt platted road. So again, you have legal access and no physical access. I'm not sure. Anything else about that one? You have a little piece of property right here. Looks like the sidewalk. You don't want to build that one. Little corner right here, probably too small to be built on. Same thing here. That's a 10-foot wide strip of land, probably an easement that got sold. Back here and back here, again, little strips of land. This property does not have access. This property in Baldwin, that does have access. That might be... I know that there's some areas up there that are 30 by 100 that are camping lots. You can actually camp on them for a certain amount of time. You can park a travel trailer there, or you can camp on there. And there is value in those types of properties. That's something you want to research to make sure it is a camping lot. I don't know the specifics of this particular subdivision, but a camping lot for somebody to recreate, or maybe to go up there to have a place to as like a home base when they go ride snowmobiles or something like that. You could make this property work, perhaps. Let's see. Same thing here. Access issues with that one. No road, no road, no road, no road, no road. This one has a road. It's right next to this guy's house. Looks like it's either a road or just an area with no trees. Can't tell. Same thing with all these. Kind of check and make sure that they are actually usable. All right, we're going to keep rolling here. I'm trying to get a little bit faster for you guys so we get through all these properties today. I see a drainage ditch right here. That's not cool. Yeah, that's probably something you want. Okay, yeah, swamp lot. Avoid that one. 0.60 acres. Looks decent. No observable structures. There's a building previously removed. Let's see. Oh, there is standing water. That's an issue. 0.6 acres, it's a little bit larger than a lot of these properties, but even at 0.6 acres with standing water on the property, you have to be very, very careful. There's a lot of things that go into being able to build on a property that has water on it. It looks like there was a structure there at one point, which hopefully you're grandfathered in and can rebuild. All right, let's see. Lake Miri, I think it's Mirimichi. Same thing there. They have in Canadian lakes. They have dues in those areas. So I kind of go into that knowing the properties aren't worth a whole lot of money. This does have 730 acres of waterways, pickleball, tennis. I mean, there's a lot of stuff there. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people that actually buy properties. I'm not sure about Canadian lakes, but they buy properties in these subdivisions for $100, for example, or $1,000. Just to have access for the amenities. They might even stay at a hotel nearby, use it as a weekend retreat, and they go and they use, all the amenities, the waterways, the golf courses, all that good stuff, right? Because they are an owner that has property there. Don't really see the HOA dues right off the bat. 4,200 acre grass strip. That's pretty cool. Pickleball. Obviously, you want to call them, see what their dues are. Fine. Okay, so we got Canadian Lakes. Yeah. Okay, so I don't want to waste too much time researching this even more. Okay, so obviously, if you wanted to buy something there, contact them and see exactly what the dues are. But I believe the values there again are just a few $1,000. There's not a whole lot of margin there, but you possibly could make a few bucks. All right, scrolling down, we got Monroe. These are city lots, urban lots, urban lot. Make sure you can buy these. These are $250. There's your margin get cut a little bit when you sell these to like a speculator online. Obviously, you can spell them somebody local. I just don't know what the building is in that area right now. I haven't done my research on these specific areas. Vacant lot, same thing here. Looks like Honeymoon Heights Owners Association. I'm going just to guess this is also one of those POA areas. I'm not familiar with this subdivision at all. Little uneven, could be flattened out. Nice getaway spot. Do your research. There's going to be dues on these more than likely. Yeah, I mean, looks like they got dirt roads. I can't tell. No, they're paved. Okay. Nonetheless, I mean, there could be value in there. Let's see. No value there, nothing there, nothing there because there's access issues. That's too small to build on. That's too small to build on. You get a fresh lot. This is Muskegon. Um, yeah, City of Muskegon. You can buy something like this, sell it to a speculator online for a couple $1,000. Maybe somebody local, maybe a neighbor, but there's. And I haven't been in Muskegon in a few years, but there's not a whole lot of building going on, especially in these sections where you'll see the majority of the tax sells at. Same thing here. Same thing here. Ogie Mall looks like this is a little piece of I don't even know, maybe an easement that got sold. You have a house in poor condition here. You have a piece of property that's a triangle that you looks like it's on a railroad track and goes across a road. So that's not something you want to mess with. Hoarder property, don't want to mess with that one. That's a mess. 600 square feet. That's like a little strip of land. 0.43 in Otsego County. Again, association. They do have links that they provide to the association down here, I believe. Or do they? Yeah, I don't see them on here. But contact this area for the association dues and whatnot. But again, it's one of those areas that have a lot of vacant lots and minimal interest in people building there, so you don't have a whole lot of value, unfortunately. All right, so you got a little survey. Looks like survey error right here that has a little tiny piece of leftover land. Same thing here. Ross, come. Let's see what's here. While that's loaded in the background, we have this little piece here that's unaccessible. Same thing here, same thing here, same thing here. This looks like it's a road, but we'll double check. 80 by 285, parcel's out of shape. Looks to have been a campsite. Yeah, contact the government to make sure you can build on it based on square footage and setbacks and stuff. This is a nice little piece of property, though. It's not that really out of shape. I mean, it's not like it's a weird shape. There's a road in front of it. This looks like a good little piece of property. You could probably buy this and make some money selling it to somebody, an end user, maybe a builder, just holding on to it for longer term. It looks like a good property. All right, this one here, this is a portion of the road, it looks like. They got a weird long meets and bounds legal description too. Obviously, if you're on, pass or bid or whatever, look at the GIS of this property. Electric passes through the center of the property. It's also the ingress and egress. You just don't want to get yourself into it. You don't want to force an investment. You would get yourself to a bad situation with a property like that. All right, moving on here. Getting to the bottom of this list here, 0.05. All these properties are too small to do anything with. St. Clair might be able to do something with that. Contact the county to make sure, the city. One-story home in the garage. We'll open that one up. We'll open this one up. That's a property that looks like it has some issues. Whether you can make money off of it, I don't know. It depends on the comps in the area. You'd have to do some more research on those comps. What is this here? This is a... God, that's interesting. Wow. Quite a mix of stuff they've got there. Wood frame house, obviously roof issues, got some serious issues going on with this property, unfit for human occupancy. You have to contact the county, it says. Yeah, a lot of these properties, again, this in Port Huron, I don't know the values there right now. I've had some homes in Port Huron I've done well on in the past. So check the values, see if it's worth rehabbing. That probably needs a lot of work for sure. This property here looks like a vacant lot. Looks like they're an old church which has been demolished. Make sure that you're not responsible for that bill, number one, and then see if there's any value there. Maybe there is. More than likely, you have to sell it for a few $1,000, and you can probably make some money. Oh, let's see. With this lot, we've got a few lots here. All right, this property here, just looking at that, looks kind of wet to me, maybe. L-shaped too. Yeah, it looks, I think I see water. Does have standing water. I'm not messing up with a property that's got standing water, unless we're talking many, many acres. This one here, landlocked property. Okay, so this is an interesting property because, and it also looks like it doesn't even meet setbacks. Looks like it's too small to build, but it's on I-69, so it fronts a road, but the road does not allow you access because the state owns this property here, right? Like you can't just put an apron off the interstate to your land. So that's the reason that's here. Let's keep rolling down these lots. That's a road that does not exist. That's a house that you'll see some higher minimum bids on certain things. 2 obsolete buildings. You have to knock those buildings down. By the time you knock the buildings down, you're probably not going to make your money back selling the lot in Tuscola. That actually looks like a decent house. Maybe. Poor shape. Looks like it said multiple electric breaker box, block foundation with cracks. Yeah, so it's in bad shape apparently. That's why pictures seem like, you look at a couple of these photos like that, doesn't look so bad, right? Pictures can be deceiving though. Again, if you're going to buy this, even so, I'm reading their information, but this is stuff that I would want to see on my own. I want to verify that if I'm going to bid on a piece of property. But nonetheless, could you make money there? Don't know. You have to look at the comps in that city to see. Possibly you could, even with the poor condition. You got some lots here, 0.10. Not sure if that's going to be large enough to build. It looks like the side lot of this guy's, side yard parcel. 0.3 you probably could build on. You need to make sure the county. There's some price and money there. Same thing with this one here. House set for demolition in Kalamazoo. Check on who's responsible for that. This property here, I see looks like some sort of electrical hookups, maybe for the city. I don't know if that's a lift station, maybe. I don't know exactly what that is. It also looks very low to me. Yeah, most likely unbuildable, a swamp lot, utility box. Yeah, it looks like industrial sump pump. Okay, so yeah, that's a property you want to skip. Little side yard right here. More likely you're not going to make any money with that. A little 2-story house here. If it's in good condition, pray make some money with that. Same thing with this house. Same thing with this house. This house here actually looks like it's fire damaged, so it's probably going to be condemned. So you need to make sure you talk to the city to see exactly what's going to be required and what expectations they have for those properties. You got a corn lot here, maybe 0.07. Maybe you can rebuild there. It just depends on the county. Same thing with all these lots in Kalamazoo. They're all pretty small, so check with the city of Kalamazoo to see if you can build on these properties. If you can, that's good news because you can probably sell it to a speculator online for $1,500, $2,000 perhaps, maybe even a little more. But the odds of somebody actually, you look at this house here, old house, the odds of somebody buying this to build a brand new house are pretty low. So it's kind of limited what you can do with that. Same thing with all these lots. Okay, these lots, that's 0.06. That's going to be too small. Looks like a little corner section. These lots don't front on any roads, no road frontage there. Let's see, we're getting to the end of this. We've got okay, that's 0.02. That's way too small to even consider. Vacant parcel here. Looks like the guy parks his truck on there. Maybe check the size, check the restrictions. 2 platted lots in marshlands, not cool. This is 2.3 acres, former Jake's Boneyard sites, which sounds a little bit scary because it's scrap metal. Oh, yeah. Contaminated. Don't want to do that. EPA stepped in. Don't want to do that. Even though they stepped in, they said it's been remediated and stuff. That's still, it says they might have additional remediation. That can be very expensive. Don't want to mess with anything like that. Little strip of land here that's probably, 1 foot wide. Maybe you can make some money there. Let's see. Click on that one. Little strip of land here. This property, obviously, that you'd be required to remove all that stuff. Don't want to mess with that one. This property here has access issues. Let's see. A small grassy patch, unbuildable due to size. Didn't say the size, but 1,500 square feet. Yeah, it's small. This looks like a parking lot, perhaps. Parking spot. Too small, fire damage. Not going to mess with that one. Got to check this one in Pontiac. This one has access issues. Got to check the size of this one. Probably not buildable either. Too small. A lot of these are too small. Don't know what the restrictions are there. Most of these are just going to be little side yards and worthless properties. That's a major project there, but could you make money? Perhaps. Don't know the value of little small commercial properties in Pontiac, but $10,000. This is an area where the treasurer actually didn't want $100 bids because they didn't want somebody to buy this and nothing be done with it. So you invest $10,000, and the odds are you're probably going to do something with it. That's at least their hope. These lots here, again, 1,300 square feet is too small. These might or might not be buildable. You have to check the city. If they are buildable, again, you're not going to sell them to a builder. You're going to sell them to somebody online that that you hopefully can find. This property is behind a guardrail. That's a little bit scary. We'll pull that one up though. Let's see what we've got here. 250 by 79. Yeah, and terrain. There's a drainage ditch, creek. That's just too many things going wrong with this property. I don't want to buy that one. Again, you have a little triangle piece that's on a highway. Don't want to mess with that. That looks low to me. This looks inaccessible. Just scrolling through these. Vacant parcel on Log Cabin Trail. We'll click on that one. Click on a few of these. Lake Isabella Property Owner Association. Check those dues. They do have $1,000 minimum bids, $500. We'll scroll down some more. We got some properties in Saginaw. Whether these houses are worth rehabbing or not, I don't know. More than likely not. Let's see. 175 by 35. It's beyond the road closure. I say there's, so you can't go. Yeah, I guess you could walk there, but that's pointless. All right. Let's see. Performance bond required. So this is a situation, a minimum bid $7,800, but they're going to require you to have a bond to probably knock down the properties there, because they're going to say, hey, we're going to sell you all these properties cheap if you, let's see, there'll be demolish or remediate the structures. You have to have $625,000 in a surety bond. That $625,000 is probably what it takes, according to the treasurer or the county, to knock those houses down. So, more than likely, nobody's going to buy this property, and the county will step in, knock the houses down. They'll sell them as vacant properties in the future, perhaps maybe Habitat for Humanity, something along those lines. This is the mobile home park I talked about. We did a video on this entirely. You don't want to buy this because they changed the zoning, and it's not worth nearly as much now. We scroll down. We have properties all over in Genesee. Whether they're worth any money or not, it's going to be up to you to figure out. But, there's some corner parcels and stuff. I mean, I don't know if they're building a whole lot on these roads, but even at $350, depending on, depending on what's going on there, it might or might not be worthwhile. This property you can't get to. Same thing with these houses. Might or might not be viable opportunities. Let's see here. Scrolling down. All these houses are in Flint area. Got some commercial structures. Same thing. Might or might not be viable. Some of them don't look bad. They really don't. I just don't know the market there. I haven't done my research. We're just kind of doing this all together, really surface level type research. Obviously, you want to go by and check and make sure the homes are still there and they're not burnt down and stuff like that. So let's see. We got this property here, 10.32 acres. Commercial property for $43,000. Let's see. Just looking at this map here, we got a golf course, got the parking lot to golf. This might be like attached to the golf course as a separate parcel that they lost. Don't even know if the golf course is still operating, to be honest with you. I don't know much about it. Let's do this. Let's since we're nearing the end of this, we're going to search this address in Google, see what pops up for us. See what we do one more time so I can look at the map and another one. All right, so you got this property here. Okay, so this is, I'm assuming the golf course. I'm assuming, okay, you got a net here. I'm assuming this was like an old driving range, perhaps. Nonetheless, it's 10 acres, $43,000. Let's see. Doesn't look like it was previously listed or anything like that. Obviously, you want to make sure there's no issues there. Make sure there's no soil issues, that kind of stuff. Make sure you can build on the property. Make sure that the zoning is proper, all that good stuff. $43,000 for 10 acres sounds like a pretty good deal. $4,300 an acre. I don't know what properties are going for in that area, commercial properties, but it might be a good deal. And then you have this last one down here that has a performance bond. So there you have it. Those are all the properties that are for sale in Michigan for the no reserve auction. And like I said, most of them start at $100. There's a few that start, at some more money, obviously based on the discretion of the treasurer in that county. But there's a lot of deals here. There's a lot of junk here. I would say, a good portion of these properties are junk. You have to understand, number one, the owner of the property did not pay the taxes. Number two, they went to a sale where somebody could buy the properties for the minimum bid of back due taxes, interest, and fees, and nobody at that tax sale won them. So now you have the leftover properties. And again, there's a lot of issues with a lot of these, but you can overcome some of the issues. Like we're looking at lakes in the north right now. There are certain ways to make money there. There are a lot of these little lots in urban areas where you can also make money there with the right strategy. And there's some good stuff there too. Obviously, this lot 0.69 acres in Berry County, 0.72 in Pinconning. So there's a lot of properties here that you can definitely make money off of just by buying them and selling them, not have to do anything special. A lot of them will require strategy, and a lot of them you don't want to buy at all. But nonetheless, hopefully this gives you an idea of what is available at these tax sales. Obviously, if you're looking to bid on any of these properties that we went over today, make sure you do a lot of research on them. Make sure you drive by them. Make sure you call the county or the city. Make sure that you're not going off just my very, very quick analysis. Make sure you do your own research. And if you're not interested in any of these properties, that's cool too. But hopefully you learn a little better of a way to go through and